Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam Rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Your brother Gabriel Romaani, for your problems, your solution. The question today comes with regards to women and diffusion of responsibility. I made a video before about this, with the whole Adam Saleh going to London and how women went crazy, acting, screaming. And the concept of diffusion of responsibility or group thinking is where a person is encouraged by others around them, by their misbehavior, to also remove responsibility and accountability from them. So what happens is, let's say there's 10 people and something goes around and those 9 people, 8 people, 7 people are acting a certain way. Most likely that 2, 3, 4 people are going to join that type of behavior, right? Because it's kind of like a diffusion. Like, you don't feel like, if you're alone, you're going to act very, very differently. But if you're in a group, you might act as the group is acting. And this has been tested in psychology and social sciences. Now, what's the difference between men and women? Why is it when women are together in a group, concerts, they cry, they scream, they faint, they go crazy? If they're alone, they'll act very innocent. It's the same concept, it's diffusion of responsibility. Why, when it comes to spring break, that women are going to act up in front of a group performing in very, very nasty ways? It's again because they probably wouldn't do that in front of their parents or alone, but because there's a few of their girlfriends who are also drunk or in a weird environment, they're also going to behave like that. So it's easy to corrupt the minority by the majority or the group and to follow that group mentality. Can it happen for men? Yes, of course. It's just that the outcomes or the behavior of men are different. Usually what you see with women being in a big group, that they start misbehaving and capitulating their hayat, their what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them honor with. They might take their clothes off, they might start dancing, they might do weird things with each other. It's because if everyone's doing it, if there's a big group doing it, I'm going to do it as well. With men, it works a little bit different. Men will be, for example, if they're in a group, they'll act more violently. They'll commit certain crimes. They'll do certain things. Now, people say, oh, well, isn't it better with the women because they're just misbehaving sexually and this and that? Yeah, you can make that argument if you think that that is okay. Now, I'm not saying that, fighting or being violent is okay. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to show you the different manifestation of this group mentality. So men, for example, you find football hooligans. If they're together in a group, they'll fight. And those who even might not even be able to fight are going to fight because they want to join the mindset of the group. With women, if they're all dancing and doing weird stuff, probably the minority is going to join the majority and do it as well. Probably a woman is going to behave in a way where she's going to forfeit her chastity, her haya, her shyness, and her sexual value even in a group setting. There are two different outcomes. Both, the group mentality is kind of wrong. But one of them that is positive, I would say, when it comes to men, is that men, when they get together, they almost like form an army. And that is why we find throughout history the armies were by men. So when men get together, that violence can be controlled and tamed towards something positive. As long as there is some form of containment of that group mindset, it can actually be stirred in a positive way. That is to create an army. And we find again throughout history, it was men who were in the army. Now, when you go to women, there's nothing really you can do about this, because how are you going to get something positive out of forfeiting or capitulating your haya and your bashfulness, your shyness, your chastity, and so on? There's nothing that's going to happen. A bunch of girls in a club or in a concert or anything like that. How are you going to make that into? It's not. So it's interesting to see the different psychologies and manifestations of that. Group mentality by default and fusion of responsibility by default is wrong and negative. It's wrong and negative in both sides, men and women, and we have to be careful of it because it's easy to corrupt. And that's what the Prophet said, that a person is upon the deen of his friends or of his peers. So both men and women have to be careful, but it's interesting to see two different manifestations of the same thing. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's your brother Romaani. I ask you today, brothers and sisters, to consider becoming a patron. You can get access to exclusive content, our trips, behind the scenes, stuff that we wouldn't be releasing in public, but at the same time supporting the dawah and helping us to continue being independent. So check out the description, the link, and click and share with all your loved ones so they can also benefit, inshallah.